Let me start by asking you a simple question. What would your life look like if you gave it everything you've got? Not just effort, but obsession. The kind of focus that wakes you up early, keeps you up late, and fills every moment in between with purpose. Now, I know the word obsessed might sound extreme to some, but let me offer you a different view. Obsession is not unhealthy when it's tied to a meaningful goal. It's the engine behind every breakthrough, every great invention, every world-class performance. Without it, we're just coasting. And coasting, by definition, only takes you downhill. The truth is, you have two choices in this life: be obsessed or be average. In the next few minutes, I want to take you on a journey into what it really means to live with purpose, to think intentionally, and to build habits that take you far beyond the limits of normal. Because average is safe, but obsession is where the magic happens. Clarity of purpose. Every extraordinary achievement begins with a single, unwavering decision. A decision to pursue something clear, specific, and meaningful. Clarity of purpose isn't just about having a goal. It's about owning a vision so vivid that it becomes a natural part of your daily thought process. When you are clear about what you want, your mind starts filtering the world around you differently. You begin to notice opportunities that align with your vision and dismiss distractions that pull you away from it. This kind of mental alignment isn't automatic. It's cultivated. It takes time, focus, and a sincere commitment to understanding what truly matters to you. Many people live reactively, responding to life as it comes rather than intentionally shaping it. They wake up and follow routines, meet deadlines, handle obligations, but rarely pause to ask themselves, where am I going? Without that question being answered clearly, even the hardest workers can find themselves spinning in circles. That's where clarity makes the difference. It transforms effort into progress. It turns activity into accomplishment. Once you know what you're aiming for, everything else begins to organize itself around that central focus. Think of purpose as a compass. Without it, you can be moving fast, but in the wrong direction. With it, every step, no matter how small, pulls you closer to where you want to be. And that's where obsession begins. Obsession doesn't grow in confusion, it's born in conviction. The moment you become absolutely sure about what you're chasing, you give yourself permission to become fully absorbed in it. You stop worrying about whether others understand your pace, your path, or your process. You stop seeking approval and start seeking progress. One of the biggest myths in personal development is the idea that passion alone is enough. Passion is the spark, yes, but clarity is the blueprint. You can be passionate about 100 things, but until you choose one direction and commit to it completely, your energy is scattered. Clarity simplifies. It reduces your mental load. It sharpens your focus. Instead of trying to do everything, you start doing the right things with more intensity. What's powerful about clarity is that it also builds confidence. When you know what you're working toward, you no longer need to compare yourself to others. Their paths are irrelevant. Their pace doesn't shake you. You measure yourself against your own mission, and that alone becomes your standard. Clarity gives you freedom, not from discipline, but from distraction. And in today's world, that's one of the most valuable forms of freedom you can have. So how do you get clear on your purpose? It starts with honest reflection. Ask yourself the hard questions. What do I want to create? What kind of life would make me proud? What values do I want to live by, and what am I willing to sacrifice for them? Don't rush this process. Real clarity doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. The more honest you are with yourself, the clearer the answers will become. And once they do, write them down. Revisit them often. Let them guide your decisions, shape your habits, and direct your time. At the end of the day, obsession needs a target. And that target can't be vague. It must be clear, compelling, and consistent. Without it, you're not chasing a dream. You're just running in circles. But when you do have it, when your purpose is locked in, your energy becomes different. Your focus becomes laser sharp, and your life begins to shift from average to exceptional. The power of thought. Everything we achieve, everything we build, and everything we become begins in one place, our thoughts. Thought is the original blueprint of all human progress. Long before an action is taken, a word is spoken, or a result is seen, there's a quiet process unfolding in the mind. It's here that the seeds of greatness are planted, or where the weeds of doubt are allowed to grow unchecked. The quality of our lives is in many ways a reflection of the quality of our thinking. We often underestimate just how powerful a single idea can be. One focused, determined thought, held consistently over time, can change the direction of a person's life. The person who becomes obsessed with a goal doesn't just dream about it casually. They let that thought take root. It becomes their dominant mental image, something they carry with them into every room, every challenge, and every quiet moment. That's not magic, that's mental discipline. And that discipline begins when we stop treating our thoughts as random and start treating them as tools. The truth is, we are always thinking. The question is, what are we thinking about most of the time? Are we focused on growth or stuck in fear? Are we visualizing what we want or replaying what we don't? Obsession is born when thought becomes intentional. When you consciously choose to direct your mind toward what you desire rather than what you fear, you begin to take control of your internal world. And once you own your internal world, your external world begins to shift accordingly. Average thinking leads to average outcomes. It doesn't mean someone isn't smart or capable. It means they haven't yet developed the habit of guarding and guiding their thoughts with purpose. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they haven't trained their minds to stay locked on what they truly want. They get pulled into distractions, doubts, and delays. Mental patterns that quietly eat away at potential. But obsession cuts through that noise. It says, this is what I'm going after, and then commits every thought to that path. Your thoughts also shape your identity. If you consistently think like a winner, speak like a winner, and act like a winner, your brain begins to adopt that identity. And identity is powerful. Once you believe you are someone who follows through, someone who grows, someone who doesn't quit, your behaviors begin to match that belief. But it starts with thought. You can't expect the actions of a champion with the mindset of a critic. If your inner voice is constantly doubting you, second-guessing your path, or shrinking your vision, your results will reflect that internal confusion. So how do you harness the power of thought in a practical way? You begin by becoming aware of what you're thinking about most often. Catch yourself. Notice the patterns. Are you focused on your goals or your worries? Are you visualizing solutions or replaying problems? Once you identify your dominant thoughts, you can begin to shift them intentionally, repeatedly, and with emotion. Use affirmations. Visualize your goal every day. Surround yourself with books, voices, and mentors that elevate your thinking. This isn't about hype. It's about consistency. Over time, what you focus on becomes familiar, and what's familiar begins to feel possible. The impossible only stays impossible when we never give ourselves permission to imagine it in the first place. But once you start feeding your mind a clear, powerful picture of what you want, your behavior starts aligning, your actions gain momentum, and the world around you begins to move. Thought is the origin of everything. Guard it, guide it, fuel it, and never underestimate it. Because once you learn to master your thinking, you unlock a level of clarity, confidence, and creativity that sets you apart. Not because you're lucky and not because you're special, but because you made the decision to think intentionally. And that's where true obsession begins. The value of persistence. If there's one quality that defines those who rise above the rest, it isn't always raw talent or natural genius. It's persistence. The ability to keep going when others stop, to stay locked in on a goal when the excitement wears off, and to push forward through uncertainty, boredom, or difficulty is what separates the obsessed from the average. Persistence is not loud, it's not glamorous. It often goes unnoticed, but behind every great story of success there is a long stretch of effort that most people never see. It's easy to be motivated at the beginning of a journey. There's a rush of energy, a clear vision, and a sense of excitement that comes from starting something new. But what happens after that initial fire fades? What happens when progress slows, when results don't come as quickly as expected, when obstacles show up without warning? That's the moment where persistence is tested. And that's the moment where many give up, not because they lack potential, but because they didn't stay long enough to let their efforts compound. The truth is, nothing meaningful is built overnight. Obsession isn't proven in the good days. It's revealed in the hard days. It shows up when you're tired, when you're discouraged, and when you're tempted to settle for something easier. The person who is obsessed doesn't stop because it's tough. They lean in. They understand that struggle isn't a sign of failure. It's a necessary part of the process. It refines you, sharpens your skills, and builds the kind of inner strength that shortcuts can never give. One of the most dangerous beliefs in today's world is the idea that success should be quick. We live in a culture that praises speed, fast growth, instant results, overnight transformation. But real mastery takes time. Building something meaningful, whether it's a career, a business, a skill, or a legacy, requires consistency over time. Persistence is the decision to show up every day, even when progress feels invisible. It's understanding that just because you can't see the results yet, doesn't mean the work isn't working. Persistence also builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you send yourself a message: I keep my word. That self-trust is priceless. It gives you confidence to take on bigger challenges, to stretch your limits, and to dream bigger dreams. When you're persistent, you stop waiting for external motivation because your internal discipline takes over. You don't need everything to feel perfect. You just need to keep moving forward. It's also important to understand that persistence isn't about mindless repetition. It's about being willing to adapt while staying loyal to the vision. If something isn't working, the obsessed person doesn't quit. They adjust. They learn. They find another way. Persistence is not stubbornness. It's commitment paired with growth. It's the refusal to walk away from something just because it got complicated. And anything worth doing will get complicated. So how do you develop persistence? You start small. You build the habit of consistency by doing things daily, even when they're uncomfortable or inconvenient. You remove the option of quitting from your vocabulary. And you surround yourself with reminders of why you started in the first place. The bigger your why, the stronger your endurance becomes. When your reason for showing up is tied to purpose, not just outcomes, you'll find strength you didn't know you had. Persistence doesn't guarantee that you'll reach your goal tomorrow, but it guarantees that you're becoming the kind of person who eventually will, and that's everything. The average stop when it's hard. The obsessed, they keep going, because they know that every step, no matter how small, is taking them exactly where they're meant to be. You become what you repeatedly do. There's a quiet truth that often goes unnoticed, but it shapes every outcome in life. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. What you do consistently, not occasionally, defines who you are and what you become. That's why obsession isn't measured by how excited you are on day one. It's revealed in the small, often unseen actions you repeat every single day. We tend to admire the big moments, the breakthrough, the achievement, the public win. But behind every one of those highlights is a long trail of daily effort. Repetition, routine, and rhythm. These are the things that form excellence. And the truth is, everyone has habits. The difference is that obsessed individuals design their habits on purpose. They build routines that reflect where they're going, not just where they've been. Average is often the result of unintentional living. It's what happens when you let life lead you instead of leading your life. When your days are reactive instead of intentional, your habits are shaped by whatever's loudest or easiest, not what's most meaningful. The obsessed, on the other hand, live by design. They know that success isn't one massive leap. It's 1,000 small steps taken with consistency and clarity. What you do daily is shaping your identity. If you repeatedly choose discipline, you become someone who trusts themselves to follow through. If you repeatedly choose distraction, you become someone who's always chasing the next thing but never building anything real. These decisions may seem small in the moment, but they compound. Just like drops of water carve out canyons, daily habits shape your future in powerful ways. There's something deeply empowering about knowing you can create change, not by overhauling your entire life in a day, but by mastering your next move. You don't need to be extreme. You need to be consistent. Whether it's writing a page, practicing a skill, hitting the gym, studying, building, planning, whatever your mission demands, do it daily. Not perfectly, not endlessly, but daily. Because repetition builds momentum, and momentum is what average people rarely experience. They stop and start, sprint and stall, but those who are obsessed keep showing up, and eventually that rhythm becomes identity. It's also important to understand that habits don't just build discipline, they build belief. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you reinforce the idea that you are capable, and belief is one of the strongest fuels you can have. When you believe in your own process, your energy changes. You stop hesitating. You stop needing to be motivated all the time. You just move because movement has become your standard. To truly live at a high level, you need to become a student of your own behavior. Notice what you do when nobody's watching. Observe your choices when things get uncomfortable. Are your actions aligned with your goals? Are your habits moving you closer to what you want, or quietly pulling you away? These are not judgmental questions, they're clarifying ones. And when you're obsessed with growth, clarity is your best friend. At its core, obsession is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Intensity can give you a burst, but consistency builds a legacy. The way you spend your days is the way you build your life. So if you want to become more, do more, not in a chaotic, burnout-driven way, but in a focused, intentional rhythm that becomes part of who you are. You don't need to be constantly inspired or perfectly motivated. You just need to make a decision to align your daily habits with your deepest purpose. Because when your actions reflect your vision and your habits reflect your values, you stop being average by default, and you start becoming exceptional by design. The environment reflects the mind. Look around you, your space, your circle, your routine. Everything in your environment, whether you realize it or not, is a reflection of what's happening in your inner world. The clarity or chaos around you often mirrors the clarity or chaos within you. This is not just about physical surroundings. It's about energy, intention, and the spaces you choose to occupy mentally, emotionally, and socially. Your environment is not neutral. It either pulls you forward or holds you back. And when you're truly obsessed with your vision, you begin to design your environment to match the mindset you need. Too often, people underestimate how powerful their surroundings can be. They set goals, make plans, even build habits, but leave themselves in an environment that contradicts everything they're trying to achieve. It's like planting a seed in poor soil and wondering why it never grows. You cannot expect focus to thrive in distraction. You cannot expect consistency to flourish in chaos. The obsessed understand this. They don't just change their schedule, they change their setting. They become intentional about what they allow into their world because they know it directly impacts what they're able to give to it. Your environment includes the people around you, the voices you hear daily, the attitudes you absorb, the expectations placed on you. Every conversation either strengthens your belief or weakens it. That doesn't mean you cut people off at the first sign of doubt, but it does mean you become deeply aware of how others influence your focus and energy. The average are shaped by their surroundings. The obsessed shape them. They choose mentors, friends, and communities that elevate their mindset and push them to stay aligned with their purpose. It also includes your physical space. What you see every day becomes normal to your mind. That's why small changes like organizing your workspace, removing distractions, or placing reminders of your goals where you can see them actually matter more than most people think. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about intention. If your environment reminds you of your vision, you're more likely to stay connected to it. If your environment is cluttered, chaotic, or uninspiring, over time it chips away at your drive, even if you don't notice it happening. Even your digital environment counts. Your phone, your feed, your inbox. What are you allowing in? What are you consuming first thing in the morning and last thing at night? Are you filling your mind with noise or with knowledge? It's a simple truth. What surrounds you begins to shape you, and the more you allow average messages into your space, the harder it becomes to maintain an exceptional mindset. This doesn't mean cutting yourself off from the world. It means curating what you allow to influence you. The beautiful part is this: you have control. You may not be able to change everything overnight, but you can begin shifting your environment piece by piece. Start with what you can control. Reorganize your space. Set clearer boundaries around your time. Spend more minutes with things that uplift you and fewer with things that drain you. Create visual cues that remind you who you're becoming. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be intentional. When you walk into a space that supports your vision, you move differently. You think clearer, act faster, and stay grounded in your purpose. And when your environment reflects your obsession, your path forward becomes a lot less cluttered. The mind and the environment are deeply connected. You don't rise above your surroundings, you grow into them. So build a world around you that reflects the life you're creating, not by accident, not by default, but by design. Because when your surroundings support your vision, average no longer fits, and obsession becomes not just a mindset, but a lifestyle. Obsession is a decision. Obsession isn't something you're born with. It's not some rare trait that only a few people get to have. It's a decision, a conscious, deliberate choice to go all in on something that matters to you. While average waits for permission or perfect conditions, obsession decides. It doesn't need applause, and it doesn't rely on constant motivation. It's built from a place deeper than mood or moment. It's built on commitment. Every person at some point comes to a crossroad. One path is comfortable, predictable, and safe. It asks little, risks little, and in return offers little. The other path is demanding. It challenges you to grow, pushes you to get uncomfortable, and asks for everything you've got. That's the path of obsession. It's not forced, it's chosen. And once you choose it, something changes. Your energy shifts. Your attention sharpens. You stop dipping your toe in and start stepping fully into who you're becoming. People often think obsession means burning out or losing balance, but that's a misunderstanding. True obsession is not chaotic, it's clear. It doesn't mean doing everything. It means doing what matters most with full focus. The obsessed don't chase 100 things. They zero in on one mission and give it the attention it deserves. Their lives become aligned, not scattered. Their choices become intentional, not reactive. Obsession simplifies your world not by making it easier, but by making it clearer. One of the biggest myths people believe is that success belongs to those who are simply more talented or lucky. But time and time again, you'll find that success follows those who decide and who back that decision up with relentless focus. When you make the decision to go all in, you remove the exit doors. You stop giving energy to excuses and you start building momentum. That decision becomes a filter for everything else. How you spend your time, who you let into your circle, what you say yes to, and what you walk away from. That level of commitment can be uncomfortable at first. You may feel resistance. You might worry about what others will think. You might question whether you're doing too much. But that discomfort is part of the transformation. It's part of the shift from average to exceptional. The more you lean into it, the more you start to grow into the version of yourself who no longer second guesses, who no longer hesitates, who no longer shrinks to fit in. Obsession also gives you power over your story. When you decide to pursue something with full heart and full effort, you're no longer living by default. You're living by design. You're no longer waiting to see what life brings. You're stepping into the driver's seat and building something real. And when you live with that level of purpose, it's not just about achieving your goal. It's about who you become in the process. So, how do you make the decision to be obsessed? You start by getting brutally honest about what you want. Not what sounds good, not what's expected, what you actually want. Then you commit. You stop playing small. You set a standard. You show up differently. And you let that decision echo in your actions daily, deliberately, unapologetically. Because at the end of the day, you either choose average by default or you choose obsession by design. One keeps you safe. The other pulls greatness out of you. One keeps you comfortable. The other makes you capable. And that choice, it's yours. Always has been, always will be.